Public Law 103-324. This piece of legislation changed my life because it clarified my actual existence to the United States government as a Native American woman. Let me explain why. In 1855, my tribe signed on to the Treaty of Detroit. And in this treaty, we included a provision meant to solidify our sovereign status. Instead, some low-level bureaucrat interpreted it as terminating our status, and he stripped us of our sovereignty. For over 150 years, my people fought to right this wrong. In the early 1990s, as our fight was reaching its peak, we opted to forego the Bureau of Indian Affairs federal recognition process, and instead opted to push a legislative bill that would clarify or reaffirm the nation-to-nation status we once had. This was incredibly risky, because we were the first tribe in history to go the congressional route. But we won. On September 21st, 1994, President Bill Clinton signed into law the reaffirmation of my tribe, the Little Traverse Bay Bands-Vodawa Indians. As a young girl aged 10, it was a big deal. As a young girl aged 10, I saw firsthand my tribe put policy, politics, and advocacy at the center of its affairs. I didn't learn the life cycle of a bill from Schoolhouse Rock. No, I learned it in real time watching ballot counts of our bill on C-SPAN. And that's the actual results. I knew quickly, and I learned quickly, that policy matters. And I knew early on that I would dedicate my life in helping underrepresented people to use public policy as a means to strive for equity. But all I needed to do was find my seat at the table. And believe it or not, I found it by becoming a development professional. Because for me and for many, fundraising and philanthropy is how we fight. First, I'll explain why fundraisers are an important role in this fight. And two, how current trends in philanthropy shape the work that we do. And lastly, give you one extraordinary example of how talent and resources came together at my organization, Policy Matters Ohio, to protect workers when they lose a job. In my 2 years at graduate school, I knew I wanted to work in the nonprofit sector. So I thought it would be a really good idea to take a few courses in fundraising. As it turns out, I am a much better storyteller than I am a statistician. I also learned pretty quickly that I was good at bringing like-minded people into the fold. So I knew I had a career in development. And I was eager to help organizations like Policy Matters Ohio secure the resources they needed to get the job done. I often find myself defending my position to become a development professional. In fact, I had one person say to me, "Aren't you just the grant writer?" The thing is, the seat at the table was there, and it was open. It takes a diverse amount of talent to bring about the change we all want to see. Whether you're the researcher, the director, the communications, or outreach team, we all have a role to play. And I think you will find that some of the most effective development professionals are some of the most personally invested and passionate people on the team. Because when I see the babysitter who cares for my 2 daughters scheduling back-to-back surgeries because she's terrified she won't get health care in a year, I know my role at Policy Matters Ohio means bringing in that extra support so my team can fight to defend the Affordable Care Act. This is why I fight. And this is how I fight. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Philanthropy is the time-tested way that people give back to issues they care about. I'm sure many of you in this room regularly donate to fight poverty, fund activism, or donate to your neighborhood group. In fact, philanthropy can be found at the root of almost every single positive thing we see in our own communities. But this has been changing. In the 1970s, anti-government corporations began investing heavily in policy fights, giving out multi-year flexible funding and skewing the policy process. By the 1980s, the number of corporate PACs quadrupled. A number of firms in DC with lobbyists increased from 175 to 2,500. And the investments paid off. They effectively gutted some government programs, undermined environmental protections, weakened safety nets, and reduced labor rights. But our funders also care about labor rights, workers, and families. And they too have increasingly been offering that multi-year flexible funding and investing in policy fights. And it is precisely this type of funding that allowed my organization to respond quickly and effectively when we spotted a bill that was attacking unemployment compensation. Because in November 2015, that bill was introduced. They intended to cram this bill quickly with little to no review through the lame duck session. At Policy Matters, we knew this was an important fight, and it was about to fly under the radar as Ohioans were enjoying their Thanksgiving dinner. This bill would have made Ohio's unemployment compensation the stingiest in the nation. It would have taken benefits from 26 weeks to as low as 12, and it would have made it harder for workers to qualify for in the first place. In our economy, people lose jobs all the time. Unemployment compensation means the difference between just a temporary setback and a full-on economic crisis for families, forcing them to blow through their savings, lose their homes, and displace their children from schools. In the event of regional job loss, it prevents entire communities from falling into economic turmoil. We knew we had to keep unemployment compensation robust, but we didn't have the project support at the time because we had no idea this bill was going to come down the pipeline when it did. Fortunately, some of our funders, many of whom are in this room, provide us with support to work on policies for families, children, and workers more broadly. We were able to use this funding to first spot and raise the alarm on the bill. We were able to organize our allies and our partners in understanding the implications of the bill, so they too were armed with the facts for their fight. We were able to send staff down to the Ohio State House so they could testify in opposition. Operating support from the Center on Budget Policy Priorities right here, they ensured that our communications team had a sound strategy to spread the story. We explained the bill to editorial writers, resulting in over 8 major Ohio newspapers speaking out against the bill. All of this together meant we were effectively able to stall that bill from being crammed through lame duck that session. Over the course Over the course of the next year, we were able to find dedicated support to really dig deep into the bill and to also come up with a thoughtful alternative. In December 2016, in the waning days of the legislative session, and after over a year of fighting, the committee chair stood up, surprised everybody, and said, "House Bill 620 has been taken off the agenda and will not reappear for the rest of the week." He also added, for those of you in opposition, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So we effectively stalled the bill, and it was an incredible victory. And because of the support of our funders and our donors, we were able to ensure nearly 200,000 Ohioans retained access to unemployment compensation that holiday season. I wish I could say that's where the story ends. But as of just last month, yet another bill has been introduced attacking unemployment compensation in our state. This bill is badly flawed, but thanks in part to the hard work of my colleagues over the last 2 years, it's not as bad as the iterations that came before. If there's anything I learned as a 10-year-old, hearing about my tribe's 150-year fight, of which there were setbacks and failures, is that you don't give up. In fact, my Native American name is Dindisikwe, which means blue jay woman. And blue jays, this bird is known to be highly intelligent and adaptable, but also loud, persistent, and aggressive. Yeah. And like my namesake, we too must be intelligent and adaptable, and yes, loud, persistent, and aggressive. We must continue to fight. In fact, I think that's why every single one of us is in this room right now. Whether you're the statistician or the researcher crunching the numbers, the board member or director sharing the story, like our communications and outreach team as well, and our funders and donors who all, you guys make this work happen. We all have a role to play. So roll up your sleeves, find your seat at the table, and your friendly development professional. We still have work yet to be done. Thank you. English.